Welcome to the MsSavvyPro Show with Patrice Jackson, a.k.a. MsSavvyPro, where each week we get up close and personal with successful purpose-filled people to reveal their struggles, strategies, and inspiring stories of how they are changing the world one person at a time. Our purpose is to empower you to start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can to pursue your dreams and goals.
Hey, you guys, it's another great, terrific Tuesday on the MsSavvyPro Show on the I Am a Superwoman Network. It's your girl, Patrice Jackson, a.k.a. MsSavvyPro, and I am here to be a vehicle to get you guys inspired and motivated to live the life that you were born to live. I am all about, finding out what your purpose is, cultivating that purpose, nurturing that purpose, and then sharing it with the world. And I do that on the MsSavvyPro Show by getting guests who are authors and entrepreneurs and speakers and entertainers who are out there living their dream, living their purpose, and they come on and they talk about their journey and their struggles and all the things they've learned along the way as they have started to pursue their purpose, and they use their purpose to change their communities from where they are. So, of course, we have another great guest today. She is an author. I'm going to read her bio, you guys, and, of course, you can always go over to the event page, read the bio for yourself, check out the links, and just start a conversation about purpose and how this particular guest inspires you, motivated you, and just got you moving on what you feel your purpose is, or even just to get up and try to find out what it is. So if you have any questions, go on over there. You can always contact us at info@savvypros.com, and you can go over to Yes Purpose Matters, which is our website for the book. You guys, as you know, I had the opportunity to work with some fantastic people, some really awesome purpose-filled authors who came together and they told their stories of purpose and told their journeys in a book. And it's also a journal, and it has affirmations, and it has journal prompts for you, quotes and everything. So make sure you go on over to Yes Purpose Matters, get the book Purpose Matters, and let me know how that has inspired and encouraged you as well. So let's go ahead and jump on to the show. I have Leslie, who was born and raised in the Cleveland area. She is a 3-time Ironman triathlon, I think I'm saying that right, finisher, and a Boston Marathon finisher, and holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in physical education with her concentration in sports management. She has used that hyperactivity to teach ice skating lessons part-time since 1981. In 2011, she received her health coaching certification from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York, and as a member of the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. In 2010, she joined a leadership organization to improve her ability to dream and set goals, and thankfully so, as in 2011, she had a strange turn of events that led her down a completely different path. She caught her husband of 25 years texting another woman, and it was revealed that he was having an affair. Big on journaling, she ended up writing a book under the pen name of Stacy Green. The book was therapeutic for her and healing. She remains happily married once the healing took place. She is now writing her second faith-based self-help book detailing the life lessons we learn from the people in our lives that pass away before we get to say goodbye or even say thank you to them. Her new book has been launched on a Kickstarter and will be released to the backers in October, and the public release is yet to be determined. When she is not on the ice or writing, she can be found playing in her organic garden or spending time with her husband and grown children. Okay, you guys. I'm just reading her bio. I know it's going to be an interesting conversation. I can't wait to hear how her journey and how she got to where she is and all the things she's learned along the way. So, Leslie, welcome to the MsSavvyPro Show.
Well, thank you so much.
So, okay, so we read your bio, but I know there is so much more to you. So tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got to where you are today.
Well, that's kind of an interesting story. I guess in many respects I'm just your incredibly typical Clevelander, born and bred in Ohio, love it, go Cavs, and had a pretty idyllic upbringing. I kind of refer to my mother and father as Ward and June Cleaver, if you remember them from Leave It to Beaver. They were
Leave It to Beaver.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were really the perfect parents to four very different children. And they put up with a lot when we were growing up. But I feel like they always allowed me to pursue whatever dream I had. And I know that oftentimes it seems like, especially from my bio, that I was chasing the next shiny object, teaching skating and doing life leadership, and now I'm an author. And I kind of sometimes struggle with the fact that I'm not focused, but then other times I think, no, you know what? I've read that most people truly do change their career sometimes 6 to 8 times in their life. So I'm right on target.
Well, it's funny you say that because back in the days of June Cleaver and Leave It to Beaver days, people, they got a job and they stayed at that job from the day they probably got it right out of high school or college, and they stayed there until they were ready to retire. They bought their home, and it was just kind of like cookie cutter, right? You just add water, add family, and things like that. But as the generations have changed, now especially with millennials, they don't have that commitment. I don't want to say commitment, but they don't have that need to be loyal to that one thing, right? That one field, that one industry, that one job. They feel like, hey, let's go where my heart desires. And so, having someone kind of like a free spirit, but also coming from that kind of that, having parents of that generation, do you feel like it's healthy to have that free spirit and feel and kind of go where your heart desires? How do you feel like it affected you?
Well, I feel like in this day and age, we absolutely have to do that, and it makes me sad since I have grown children all finishing college and in college. It makes me sad that a lot of the colleges are still teaching the kids for professions that no longer exist. We went from, many, many years ago, everybody was a farmer, and then we kind of went into the industrial age, and now we're kind of out of the industrial age. We really don't make anything. Now we're into the information age, and so I feel like right now our jobs are constantly emerging, and we have to be able to keep up with them, and we have to always be on our toes through all of the new technology and all of the new opportunities that we're given. Now, that being said, my dad was a little bit of a trailblazer way back when. He did go to college, get good grades, got that steady job as a school teacher for a private college preparatory school, and thought that was his 45-year career. And something just didn't feel right with him, and he became a printer. So we started a print shop in our basement when I was growing up, and the city finally said, hey, this is a residence. You can't have a commercial business. We're sick of seeing the big trucks on the street. So he moved into a small print shop and became an entrepreneur. So I guess being raised in that environment, I saw him follow his heart. I saw him give up the security of a consistent paycheck for the freedom of running his own business. So, I feel like maybe that's why I went from phys ed major to nutrition counselor to I even ran a home daycare for a while when my own children were young, and worked at the print shop when they still had the print shop in operation. And the changing careers, it doesn't bother me. I do wish that the income was more consistent. The ebbs and flows of being an entrepreneur can be rough.
Yeah, I often have conversations with my friends or fellow entrepreneurs within my circle and saying how, when you sign up to be an entrepreneur, you're truly signing up for a different type of lifestyle, and it has to be for you because it's not always easy. You don't go into you don't go into just because it's your purpose or your passion or you just have this desire to fulfill this need doesn't mean that it's always going to be easy, because, and sometimes it is a little bit easier for you to just say, hey, I'm going to go to work, I'll exchange these dollars for hours, and I'll go home, but when you're an entrepreneur, it's always on your heart. It's something you always really want to do.
Right. And I think, too, something that I'm learning in the leadership group that I work with is that it's always nice to have multiple streams of income. So I still do teach skating lessons, and I still do keep that as sort of a, hey, that's a secure paycheck. I know I'm getting it every 2 weeks. I love the kids. I've been doing it for so long that I don't, it's not difficult. It's fun. But I don't think it's my true calling. I sort of was telling my husband when he was a little bit nervous with me going out into the author and public speaking world, he didn't see a consistent paycheck on that and was a little nervous. And I said to him, you know what, though? Here's the thing. I'm living for the dash. And he said, what does that mean? And I said, well, look at your headstone. There's a beginning and an end, when you were born and when you died. But what you do in the middle is your dash. And when I think of that, I think, is this what the good Lord put me on the earth for? I love doing it. Do not get me wrong. Love doing it. However, what's my headstone going to say? Wow, she really taught a lot of people how to balance on one foot. I had to think to myself, I know I have a higher calling. I know I'm meant to help people in some capacity. And so when I do my devotions and my prayers, I say, God, I know you're not going to show me a burning bush. I know you're probably not going to write on the walls. But would you please knock me over the head with a couple of hints as to why I'm here and what is my purpose? And that's when I usually bump into somebody at a coffee shop that I think was more than a coincidence, or I'll have a conversation with my husband and he'll say something brilliant that blew me away, that sets me on fire to do something different. And so it's not always easy, but it's always worth it.
Yes. So do you feel like, the way you commit to the different things that you're working on at the time, because do you feel like it's a little bit easier, or that you've had the practice with committing to something, because you've done the Ironman and you've done the Boston Marathon, and that's not something you wake up and say, oh, you know what, I think I'll be part of the marathon. That takes a lot of training and commitment with doing those things. So do you feel like you kind of carry that commitment over into the ventures that you have?
Absolutely, and it's funny that you say that and that you bring up the Ironman and the marathon, because I was so freakishly obsessed with my training back in the day in order to be able to compete at a high level at those events. And then it's almost like I got it out of my system, and Mother Nature came along and said, hey, it's time to have some kids. And then when I had my kids, I was freakishly obsessed about the kids. I homeschooled them. I played with them. I watched every swim meet. I attended every track meet. I really, really focused on them. And then now they're grown, and I still spend plenty of time with them, but they're, they have their own lives. And, now I'm freakishly obsessed with how many books can I put out in the next 2 or 3 years. I've got a whole bunch in my head. How do I create this leadership organization and grow it to where I want to grow it? And so I do believe that the endurance that I learned as a young teenager doing all those events has carried over into any other area of my life that has nothing to do with athletics. Anytime you want something, you have to want it bad. It can't be a fly-by-night passing thing. And the other thing I think about, too, is you almost have to have that obsession in order to do it right. You know?
Yeah, that's a really good advice, because I've read many many quotes and different articles from motivational speakers, and they speak about, you know, how you have to want it so bad it's like air. It's the only thing you think about. It's the only thing that you focus on. And I think that's with anything in life, not just triathlon or a marathon or a business. It's just anything that you have passion. It could be from you just raising your kids. You have to be totally focused on it.
If you also heard, I was just going to ask. The other thing is, because it sounds like you and I both read a lot of the same good leadership books and follow a lot of the same people, and so I bet you have definitely also heard that you're not really going to succeed in anything in life unless you know your why. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And if you just say, well, I'm doing it to make money, well, then that's not going to happen. If I said, you know, someone said, why are you writing these books? Oh, to get rich. Well, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to get rich. If I say, you know, why am I writing books? Because I want to help the next married couple that's dealing with infidelity, or I want to help the next bereaved parent get through the loss of their child. You know, if I have a why that's bigger than just a paycheck, I think that has a lot more to do with the passion of it and to really do a project correctly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You know, and it is true. You do have to, you know your why, and it has to be at the core of your focus and the core of your reasoning and plan too. So, do any of your kids share your free of spirit heart?
I think my youngest does. The other two are incredibly focused. They almost came out of the womb knowing their past, and that freaked me out quite a bit, because in fact, my older daughter, I literally tell her, you know, honey, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. Because there's so many times where at 54, I still don't feel grown up. And here she is, a young 25-year-old, and she has already secured a job at a very prestigious law firm and is starting work in October. And, you know, here I am changing careers. Again. Thank you so much. But isn't it funny how, so two of the kids definitely have pursued more of a focused, knowing exactly what they want, and then I think my youngest and I share a little bit more of a, what's appetizing this year? So it's kind of funny.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So, you know, we talked about, you know, your commitment and the things you've done in the past, but recently you became an author, and that being an author came out of a couple of different things, some changes in your life, some unexpected things you found out, and then also from journaling. Yeah. So if you can kind of talk about how you became an author, and then also let us know the importance of journaling, because I'm quite sure you have a great thought process on that.
Right. Well, when I began journaling was probably when I was 11 or 12, going through those very awkward teenage years. And I had gone from an incredibly sheltered private school, tiny private school, into a big public school, middle school, junior high, and it was quite a culture shock for me. And so either my mother or my father said, well, you should write about it. And so they bought me one of those little tiny diaries with the itsy-bitsy key that you could just break right open. And I plowed through that thing in no time. And so then they just would start to buy me those composition books from CVS, and I would just fill those up. And it was so good to me because you know how you cannot hold anger in, you cannot hold rage in, because it's got to come out somehow. And it's either going to come out when you put your fist through a wall, or it's going to come out when you hurt someone, or when you're in a traffic jam and you have road rage, and none of those are appropriate. So my feelings, whether they're happy, sad, angry, joyous, they come out on paper. So I've just always been a journal writer, and I feel like anyone out there listening that says, well, I can't write, I can't spell, it's boring, who cares? No one's going to read it except you. I laugh when I look at my journals and see how I spelled as an 11-year-old or as a 17-year-old. I laugh at the spelling because being an author now, my editor has gotten on me about being a little more precise. But the journaling is super, super helpful. But, yeah, what happened with the becoming an author was kind of a complete accident. So on a particular evening about 6 years ago, I came upstairs and my husband threw the cell phone under the bed. And I thought, well, why would he hide it? That's so silly. So it took me a little while to register, well, he must be keeping something from me. And that's, when it all came about. So during the discovery of the affair, we had to very quickly decide, well, do we want to salvage the marriage or part ways? And we both did agree to salvage the marriage. So I had been journaling through it, but I decided to write it more in book format rather than just a list of events. And I happened to be asked to be interviewed for some completely other random thing about entrepreneurship. And when this gentleman interviewed me, I happened to say, oh, so you're an entrepreneur too. What do you do? He said he was an editor. I said, well, would you look at something I wrote and tell me if it's book-worthy? And he read it, and he came back and said, wow, not only is it book-worthy, but it really made me understand how women think. He said, I am going to treat my wife so differently now. Because I guess to him, the book was being inside of a female's head. So I thought, well, I'll just do the little self-publishing, create-based Amazon thing and be done with it. And what's so beautiful about that is that anytime I want to be sad and angry and hurt, I can take that book off the shelf and I can go to that chapter or this chapter and wallow in that. But then I can say, you know what, it's no longer in me. It's here on these pages, and I'm going to put these pages back up on the shelf and move on with my life. So just like what's going on in the media now, as soon as one person says a story of their pain, everybody else crawls out of the woodwork, right? And so people began reading the book and saying, well, how did you fix it? Because it happened to me too. And, well, why did you stay together? Because it happened to us too. And so I realized that there was a need out there. And so I began just doing small public speaking engagements at little coffee shops. And it just kind of grew from there. And I realized that I have more stories to tell and more things to try to help other people get through. Unfortunately, I have lost both of my brothers before their time, both of my parents, all of my grandparents. Of course, anybody in their 50s probably doesn't have a grandparent living. But being a pretty faith-based person, I realized that each one of those people that left this earth taught me a different lesson, and I never got to thank them. So what an opportunity to be able to thank them again in a book for the very, very different lessons that they taught me.
And I've seen that you have, the Kickstarter and that you were working on that project. So I want to hear more about that project, where, kind of what truly inspired you and where you're going with the project. But first we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, if you could discuss that with us, we would greatly appreciate it.
That would be lovely. Thank you.
All right, you guys, so we are talking with Leslie, and she is talking about how she became an author and how she used the different things that she has done in her past to kind of, use that in her entrepreneurship and in her life as a whole, and how she used also the things in her past to help other people and how it helped her. So, you guys, we're going to come back and we're going to hear some more about her future projects and see how she's going to use that to help the community. So make sure you after the break, you come right on back and listen to the Miss Savvy Pro Show with Leslie and me, your girl, Patrice Jackson, a.k.a. Miss Savvy Pro. All right, you guys. See you in a minute.
We've been enslaved too long, I think it's about time we get freedom. The burning bush told me like Moses, I really think you should go lead them. The powers that be is the modern day pharaoh, your mindset is Egypt. The promised land waiting, but we want the world, Father, show us your kingdom. Crossing over that Red Sea, the wall of water so high now. As many times as he's fed, we know we walking on dry ground. Chains broken, we carefree. We ain't got to be tied down. So why does all of this scare me? Cause I ain't walking by sight now. This faith journey is spirit-led, and we know that our flesh weak. The floods come, but our Father keeps us above the water like jet ski. Trap music is trap music, our rap music that's free. Music Moses, that truth is showing here to expose it. They crossing over that water, 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 crossing over that. Hello, Mr. Pharaoh, time to let my people go. We've been suffering too long, it's time to let my people know. I am a modern day Moses, God has called me, I am chosen. If you want to be set free, you have to cross over that sea. Freedom is a mindset, so let's get our minds right. Get your head in the game, get up off the sidelines. No more living in fear, no more living in doubt. No more slave mentality, that freedom train is en route. I know that you think that you're free because you got racks to your ears. But no, that's not true. It start with your mind, let's be clear. And no, it's not all about money. And no, it's not all about fame. So turn off the TV, it's time to invest in your brain. We crossing over that water, 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 crossing over that. Don't be scared, his cloud will guide us through the night. We prepare when opposition starts to fight. The only lamp upon his path is from his light. Across the water, everything will be alright. The enemy is coming up behind me. The enemy wants to enslave and bind me. The Holy Spirit helps me and reminds me that we gonna cross right over that. We crossing over that water, 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 crossing over that water. We crossing over that water, 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 crossing over that.
Hey, you guys, yes, that was, I told you guys, I'll put it in the event page, but I wanted to share a quote with you guys, and the quote is, fill your paper with the breathing of your heart. And I seen that quote. Of course, I searched quotes about journals or something like that, and I seen that quote, and I thought it was perfect because when it comes to the things that are in your heart, sometimes you become very overwhelmed and you don't know who to share it with, who wants to hear it, who doesn't want to hear it, who's going to give you great advice or whatever the case may be. And sometimes if you just write it down, it gets it off of your mind, it gets it off of your heart, and and it's something that you can always reference. I've always seen that from the journals that I have done, to be able to go back on those journals and see how I've grown and, see the blessings of how I overcame some type of obstacle or struggle that I was going through at that time. It's such encouragement, and it's so inspiring. And just like our guest today, to be able to use the journal, to be able to use the writings of our heart in order to write it down, put it in a book to share with the masses, and allow that book to help other people from your own pain and your struggle makes it worth it. You go through this pain or you go through an issue, whatever the case may be, and you hold it all in. But what if you write it down and you share it and it changes one's life? So let our guest today, let this show today, let your journal today allow you to feel free enough to write that down. Even if you don't share it with anyone, just write it down and let God tell you what to do with it later. All right, you guys, I want to thank you so much for listening to the Miss Savvy Pro Show. We're going to listen to one more song by Heart of Worship, and we'll come back with our guest. All right, you guys.
My heart to worship. Here is my heart to worship. Forever sing your praises. Forever singing your praises. Here is my heart to worship. Here is my heart to worship. You are to be glorified. My heart
you guys. Yes, that was Heart of Worship, and I love that song. It's a very awesome song, and I think it goes great with the show we're having today. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump back in, and we're going to welcome our guest Leslie back to the show, and she's going to tell us all about her new project and how she's using it. Hey, Leslie.
Hello again.
Hey, so we were talking about your project. You got a new book that you're working on. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it came about in an unusual way. I was talking to my husband one night. I was very excited about something that had happened during my day, and I started to go on and on and on with this story. And he rolled his eyes, and he looked at me, and he said, "Get to the point." And I was so hurt, and I said to him, "You don't get it. I don't have my brothers and my dad to talk to anymore. I don't have any significant male in my life except you. You're the one that gets to listen to my long, boring stories. You're it." And he looked at me and he said,
Right.
"You know what? That's your next book." So he kind of put that thought in my head about the fact that I had lost all of these really important males in my life. And for whatever reason, maybe because I was a little athletic tomboy, or maybe because I refused to wear a dress, but when I was growing up, I really, really did have a much closer relationship to my dad than my mom. I had a much closer relationship to my brother than my sister. And so I always had male friends in high school and really felt that I could only tell these long, boring stories to my husband. And so he kind of put that little bug in my head about letters to the dead men. So I will just tell you the first chapter premise is that when my mother passed, she was the only person in my life that I felt that I really, really got to say a goodbye to. We knew she was on her deathbed. We knew she only had a couple of weeks. I went to her. I told her how fantastic of a mother she was and what a great job she did raising us. And she had a very good day that day. She could barely speak at that point, and that particular day she spoke clear enough for me to understand her. And she said, "Do you really think so?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I left with such a peace that I got to say a proper goodbye to this wonderful woman. And it got me to thinking I did not get that opportunity with my brothers and my grandmother and all the other men in my life. And so I felt that Letters to the Dead Men could be a really neat way for people like me who have also lost a loved one, maybe, again, a way to journal, a way to have closure, a way to write a letter as if the person were still here, as if you got that opportunity to thank them for the lesson they taught. And so that's how the book came about, and I'm very, very excited about it, again, because it's so close to my heart. I had also started another book that's more of a compilation of other people's stories, and that one just has to be put on hold right now because, again, we talked earlier in the conversation tonight about being focused. So I'm working on one thing at a time and trying to get that clarity on just finishing one thing at a time.
Right, and I completely, when you kind of are all over the place, and as entrepreneurs, at least for me, sometimes I get a million ideas, and I'm like, oh, let's do this one, and I have to kind of calm myself down and say, okay, that's a great idea, write it down, let's finish this, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Absolutely, and writing it down and having that goal is so paramount to actually getting it done. I can't tell you how many Post-it notes and lists I have all over my house.
Right. Yes, I have a box. I put them in just a box because, like you said, they will be all over my house. They're usually all over my desk. So I collect them when I clean my desk off for the week, and I'm like, just throw them all in that box. And then once a week or once every 2 or 3 weeks, I'll go through them like, okay, check these off. I can, take care of that. But I'm the same way.
Is your desk nice and messy? Is your desk really nice and messy too? Do you have a messy desk?
It does. It is messy. It is messy. However, I do clean it off often because it gets messy, but then I have to start off with a clear desk.
Well, I have been told that messy people actually are quite creative people. So anytime my husband gets on me about my office, I just remind him that it's my office. It's not his man cave.
Right.
It's not our bedroom. It's my office. And I like it that way. I'm a creative mess.
Right. Yeah, I usually have a desk full, and then usually on Saturday, I'll clean it off so Sunday I can kind of start with a fresh desk.
Right.
But yeah, it gets very messy. So Leslie, tell us what's next for you. I know you have the book, but how can we, be part of the book, or not be part of the book, but find it, and how the Kickstarter is going, and also where we can find you.
Okay, well, you have to understand that because the first book that I wrote was about an affair, I did not put it under my real name. So the first thing everybody will have to remember is that you are going to look for Stacey, Stacey, Green, Greene, and my blog spot is the title of the first book. So if you want to reach or read the blog, it's strongerthanbroken.com. And then for the Kickstarter unfortunately has such a time deadline. So I believe my last day for the Kickstarter is July 6th or July 7th. And so for that one, you would either type into the search bar Stacey Green or Letters to the Dead Men. And then you can look at all of the rewards. And that's the kind of fun thing I think about Kickstarter, is I'm not saying, oh, give me money. I'm saying, let's pre-order this book, let's look at the rewards, there's all different levels, and I'm really excited that the backers that I do have so far, several of them have backed at a level where they're going to be in the book and the acknowledgments. So I'm blessed that it's off to a good start. I definitely need to be fully funded in order for the book to come out in October. If I'm not fully funded, it'll still come out eventually. It'll just take a lot longer because, as anybody that's ever written a book knows, there's just so much more than the sweat of the author. There's the line editing, content editing, cover design, formatting, audiobook, printing. A lot goes into producing something, and I know I mentioned that my parents were printers, so I'm a little fussy. I want it to be done well. I want it to be as professional as the first one was. So that's where I'm headed now, is to just really get the Kickstarter going, and my goal is to finish it to the backers by October, and then public release a little bit later than that.
All right. Yeah, that's amazing that you have that program. I actually wrote a book myself too. Shameless plug, called Purpose Matters. And you're right, it takes a lot, especially when you're working with different people who are involved. You have to make sure that everybody has their own time to be able to do their part in it. So I get it.
Yeah.
Well, we do look forward to.
Though. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Especially when you get the opportunity to kind of hear other people's experience about the subject you're writing, because when you talk about it, people are like, if that happened to me, or I would love to do that, and, because even just with the book, I've lost people, and I would love, there's so many things that I still have to say, and most people I've heard, and I know I have this, you still want to pick up the phone and call that person anytime something that they want to talk about happens.
Right.
So, it's funny.
It.
I know this may sound weird, but everybody knows I'm the awkward nerd girl. But sometimes I kind of want to pick up the phone and tell my mother, like, Ma, did you know your dad? Like, did you know? It just seems like that's something I need to tell her, just because I'm so used to tell her that somebody passed away, or did you know that? So
or how about
I get it, to be able to, that opportunity to be able to share that.
Right. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to make a phone call because I couldn't remember if it was, pecans or marshmallows to put on those sweet potatoes. And,
right.
Mom will know. And you do. You start to pick up the phone, and then you get that little sadness. Or with my grandfather, oh, my goodness. He passed when I was 11, so that was so many years ago. But honest to goodness, when I am in church, there are about 4 hymns that whenever they play those particular hymns, I cannot stop crying. I almost convulse because I still can hear my grandfather's voice sitting next to me in the church singing in his crackly old man voice. And there are, like I said, there are about 4 hymns that he's still sitting right there with me 30, 40 years later. And it's just crazy to me. So, yeah, the people that come through our lives.
Yeah, that feeling is always amazing. Amazes me that you still have that urge to pick up the phone or to share something with that person, no matter how many years. Like you said, you were 11, that was some time ago, and you still have that urge, So I think it's, that's one thing about grief is that sometimes people want you to get over it. And I don't think it's that you get over it, is that you learn how to cope and still function within the grief. I think that's really, for me, that's what it is.
I think it's a little bit like a scar, the wound is healed, but you still have the remnant.
Yep, exactly. So I look forward to your book and what what you're going to put out with that, and how it's going to help so many people. So please keep us posted. Here's the Miss Savvy Pro Show, you guys. You can follow her and see how that project is going. Or if you want to be a contributor, reach out to her and let her know so you can see and be part of that, because it sounds like an awesome project. So I want to thank you, Leslie, so much for coming on the Miss Savvy Pro Show and sharing your story and your journey of how you just became who you are, and, sharing that with such a kind heart. It is amazing. I can hear, how you want to use it to change the community, how you like to nurture. It sounds like even in your jobs that you've had, it's always been about nurturing and, giving back what you have. And so I thank you so much for coming on the Miss Savvy Pro Show and sharing that with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great day.
And Leslie, what I always like to ask my guests is if they can share, it could be a word or scripture or a quote, just something that they use to encourage themselves from day to day. Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. My favorite verse in the entire Bible, I believe it is James 1:2. And I'm not going to quote it word for word, but I'm going to be close. Consider it great joy, my brothers, when faced with trials of many kinds, because with trials brings perseverance, and perseverance, you must have perseverance to finish, something about perseverance finishing its work so that you may not be lacking in anything. And to me, that verse says you have to go through some stuff. You got to go through some ugly stuff to be a complete and mature person. And so that one always tides me through. When I'm going through some stuff that I'd rather not go through, I keep thinking, that's okay. This is making me a complete person. So that's my favorite.
Yes, you know what? That's a very good mindset to have, that when you're going through something, that you're not just going through it. You can use it to mature and to use it to overcome.
Use it for growth. Absolutely. Yes.
So I thank you so much for coming on the Miss Savvy Pro Show.
Thank you
guys.
So much.
Make sure you check out Leslie and her book that she has already written and the ones that she has coming up. And as always, I thank you guys for tuning in to the Miss Savvy Pro Show on yet another Tuesday. I am so thankful for my audience, the people that continue to tune in. Even when I miss a show, people are like, hey, I didn't see the show came out this week. And, it shows that you guys are, you're listening, and that you're actually using this, and you like the guests that we have on. So I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for continuing to support me for these years. as I've been putting out these shows and giving me your feedback so that they can get bigger and better. So I thank you guys as always. You have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye, you guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the MsSavvyPro Show. And remember, there's always peace in purpose.